park homes are exploding all across the country.
People are kind of coming around to this idea. Young people want something different for their life. The idea of tiny living is appealing.
Here you can actually customize your home.
She got the floor plan she wanted, and 4 months later we had it.
This falls under the RV umbrella, but it's the equivalent of home grade construction.
$200,000 for a park model is a deal to a lot of people.
So many Americans are feeling that pain and they're going through the exact same thing that you're talking about.
Yellow, what it is. The jobs the employees do, it changes everything.
It might just be something worth considering when you're looking for your next dream home. Hi there, I'm Alex Caprariello with NewsNation. I'm in Elkhart, Indiana, also known as the RV capital of the world. I'm visiting today with Elevation Park Model Company. This is a builder of manufactured homes. I'm also learning that this is a booming industry. More and more Americans are gravitating towards these options given the difficulty they're finding in actually securing their dream home. Take a look as I walk the factory floor with the owners. So these are all sorts of different models. What will this eventually look like and become?
We've got a collection of, like, this is going to be a bunk room. So, you know, we always have windows. You're talking about egress windows or kitchen windows. You never know where somebody's view is going to be. So they're flipping units and rolling units, so everything changes. But being a custom shop, they're dealing with where their unit's going to be looking at. So there's a variety of front end changes that they can make, but they can come in with a blank piece of paper and just tell us what it is they're wanting it to be.
Wow, so highly customizable.
Yes.
People get exactly what they're envisioning, everything that they're dreaming of.
Correct. So they can pick straight from the catalog and say, this is what I'm looking at. They can come to us and say, I like this bedroom, but I like this kitchen, and let's just morph the two units together. Or they can come to us and say, I've got such a small lot to work with. This is what I need it to work into, but here's the things that I really would like the unit to do.
I gotta imagine that is like a really big perk, right? Because a lot of times if you're home shopping, you get what's on the market. You
Absolutely.
know, your real estate agent takes you here and you gotta, you know,
this
like
is what
or
it is.
dislike. It is what it is, but here you can actually customize your home.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, and you're dealing with home grade construction. You know, and that's what we say. This still falls under the RV umbrella, but it's the equivalent of home grade construction. You know, most of this stuff, 99% of these things are what you would find in a Lowe's. It's 2x4 sidewalls, you know. It's still a certified truss that you'll see. I mean, it can be an 80-pound live load truss that's certified for. You know, we send things into the Dakotas that are taking on significant amount of snow load. So it's a 2x6 floor system. So we do it for heavier insulation barriers. When you are sending units into Canada, a lot of times they'll use some what we call Zip R, which is a 2-inch foam barrier around it. So you're dealing with up to about a R20 insulation factor around the outside. So yeah, they're really very well built.
All right, you want to continue taking us around?
Yeah. So you can see a little bit the difference in the length here between an American unit and then a Canadian unit.
Oh,
so you
wow.
can kind of tell that front to back difference here.
The length is the difference there?
Yep.
So
yeah.
this American unit, just a little bit shorter.
Yeah, and it's probably not set front to back quite the same. So another difference that you'll see is this American unit, they chose to do a drop. So because we're still having to ship these things down the road, we're dealing with some ceiling height issues. So most of the country, 14.4 is about as high as we can go because of bridges.
Yeah.
So what they've chosen to do is they want to make sure they're getting as much room up in the loft areas as possible. So they've chosen to sink that bedroom down further, which puts more space upstairs. So they're giving themselves as much of an opportunity to use that space as well as they can.
So this idea of, you know, American units and Canadian units also speaks to the fact that you're not just making these for the Midwest, you're sending them all around.
We're going everywhere from Florida to Maine, Oregon to, we've sold units into Phoenix, Arizona. And then obviously we're going all over into Canada.
What does that tell you about the popularity of them all across the country?
it's not going anywhere. It's only increasing. The conversation about ADUs has only made the conversation bigger and bigger. The tiny house boom has only made them more and more. And when you're talking tiny houses, a lot of times you're talking 250 square feet. And you're making a lot of sacrifices there because you're having to reuse rooms as other rooms. So here you're designating spaces and you're not having to sacrifice what you're doing.
So you're capitalizing on the tiny house boom,
Absolutely.
but also adding to it, giving them more than what they would get at a tiny house.
Absolutely. And beyond that, we have 3 different series, a 3, a 5, and a 7 series. When you get up into the 7 series, we kind of went for all that name brand recognition. So it's Andersen windows, and it's Kohler faucets, and it's hardwood trims. So you don't feel like I'm buying the stereotypical RV. You know, it's name brand stuff, so you still have that comfort factor that I'm buying a real solid product here.
Love it.
So.
Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of your workers. Where do they come from? What are they doing here today?
We got the best of the best. So
We're starting to see it come together here. It looks like a little front patio or deck, rather.
yeah, little deck unit. So the decks don't count as square footage, which is great. So in the States, decks and the loft areas don't count as square footage. So it's just that overall footprint kind of under roof is the way they call it. So we've done up to 12-foot long decks, which is great. And then a lot of times they'll build on beyond that.
This is honestly probably a selling point too, because people like to sit outside and talk to their neighbors or have a cup of coffee in the morning.
Well, and a lot of times they'll take that, build onto it. There are some parks that want their customers to just put a deck onto it or steps onto it. There's other parks that'll say you can build an add-a-room onto it. Us as the manufacturer, we build the park model and we need to be done. But yeah, this kind of opens up a whole nother realm beyond that. Not knowing what the customer is doing. So when they have access to something like this, it really changes things.
And so are these units moving down a line, so to speak? Like this is the beginning, then we're slowly going to see them get further and further along.
Every step along, it adds another level of complexity, and each time it moves, there's a quality check that goes along with it. When we built the building, we actually went a little above and beyond. So every unit, once it's got electrical, when we're plugging them in, it's plugging into what we call a buzz box. So all the electric is constantly being checked. And then we're supposed to have a couple locations that we do what we call high pot testing, which sends a whole lot of electricity through the unit to make sure that there's no shorts. And we've incorporated that into a couple extra locations. And again, it's just making sure that the quality is where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, great.
This one has a bath and a half. So this front room here, they've put a half bath in here, and then we've also done it where they've put 4 bunks in this room on top of having a half bath. They've also turned around and said, I want a desk in this one because the working remote has become a big thing. You know, during COVID when nobody was, and now you're kind of on permanent vacation, but you've got a workspace. We're just seeing how people are using them has changed.
Before it might have only been used as a living quarters. Now it's
very
also
much
live, work,
10 years
play.
ago, it was Grandma and Grandpa. Grandpa was tired of hearing Grandma say, you can't back the fifth wheel up anymore. They felt like they had seen the country and they knew where they kind of wanted to be located permanently. The demographic is just getting younger and younger, and they liking the quality. It's not stick and tin. There's an insulation factor that makes them feel comfortable with what they're doing, and they can just stay, and their season can be extended out longer than just feeling like we have to be here for X amount of time. They've got more time.
Yeah,
so it's
awesome.
it's been really good for the end user.
It's an evolving industry every single day.
Yep.
Getting the insulation placed now.
Yeah.
The fireplace.
I say you'll start to see more and more of the textures coming into place now. So being a custom shop, you'll start to see, I mean, we've got, I think, 6 different floors to choose from, 3 different walls, I believe 8 different cabinets, You'll see the stone wall. There's also 3 different shiplaps and a different wood feature. You have 3 different ceilings, so it's really like building your own house. And sometimes it can be pretty overwhelming. We try to help them along with that. We have some dealers who, everything we build is a sold unit. So a lot of dealers stock units, but then obviously are more than happy to sit down with the customer and help them spec it out. We have a lot of customers, and we always are very happy to guide somebody through and give them a tour. That, you know, it's a big purchase, so they like coming through and walking through the shop and doing this themselves.
So each of the units that are on this floor right now that are currently under construction are already sold. This is somebody's unit, and this is something that they had already pre-planned, came to you guys, designed, and now it's being worked on.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea? This one's going here, this one's going here? I mean,
frequently you do. Right now it's so busy, it gets a little
put you
hard.
on the spot.
It gets a little harder.
Yeah, that
to,
one's going to Wisconsin, and that one's going.
Yeah, it gets a little harder to keep track of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Canadian's going to Ontario.
Okay,
I know that.
we know Canada.
Yeah. So.
All right, right on.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep on moving. Yeah. But it's great to see so many employees, and also talk about that a little bit. This company, it started off as just you two. You had a small employee workforce, but it's grown over time, right?
Yeah, we opened the doors with 13 employees. All 13 are still here. I mean, here's one of them. Jerry's one of our original guys.
Oh, geez, all right.
So it's just been fun to, you know, Joel and I have full-time jobs that we're doing every day.
Yeah.
And so to be able to trust your employees and not have to beg them to come to work every day and hope that things are happening out here, it makes the job so much more rewarding when you know that the people that are here take as much appreciation for their job that they're doing. It gives us a reason that we can do our jobs and we're not spending it wasting our time doing other things. So the job that our group leaders and just the employees in general do it changes everything. So it really makes this thing work on its own.
Just now you spoke about the quality of your employees and the trust that you have in them, but let's go back to just the idea of the expansion from 13 to 60, right? What does that say, the fact that your company is able to grow based on the way that this business is booming, or the way that park units are selling? Is it correlated? The better your business does, the more willing or able you are able to grow as a company?
The industry has been very good. It's been good for a long time. I mean, park models have had a very consistent growth. We feel very proud of what we're doing here. I think our business model and the trust we've had in the employee has really helped us out. We've got a stack of applications, and for the couple of years when COVID was such a thing and everybody was so worried about getting employees, I hate to say, but we've never really struggled with that. We kind of joke that every time it's time to hire another person, normally we're worried about upsetting somebody because we got 3 or 4 people that are trying to recommend a friend, and you sometimes can only pick one of them. And so it's just been so great having people that want their friends and want their relatives, whatever the case is, to come in and help out. So you hate to overuse the whole family generic terminology, but we enjoy each other. We hang out outside of work. We have bonfires. We get together for Christmas. We bring everybody together and invite a family member and do it. We're just together a lot.
Yeah.
And not because we're forcing them. You know, we enjoy each other's company. We leave here and people go together and go grab a drink after work. And so it's really great to be with people you want to be around.
Yeah, of course. Sounds like Midwest values to me.
It does. It changes that grind of here we go again, you know, here we go again.
Yeah,
you know, it makes it better. You'll see here's the 7 Series. This is something we just did this year. It's a single slope unit, so rather than just that traditional peak, much more contemporary look. But a 7 Series, so it's the Anderson windows. Zip system OSB, which is, again, it's a little more of a upscale product. It's not just a wood OSB product. Now you're dealing with some, and this is that insulated one, so it's a 2-inch thick product. So it's got some a foam back to it, which gives it another R9 of insulation. So it's just a much more overbuilt product that has an insulation. Again, this is another Canadian unit.
I was gonna say, it seems massive.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is it, right? I mean, we're not quite finished yet, but we're getting a much better idea of what the inside actually looks like.
And so this is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. This is a 3 Series. So this is going to have a little less of the options that are just automatic, but this is that price point. And yet these people have thrown a couple options back into it. So
can you give us an idea about pricing for what'd you call it, 3 Series?
3 Series here. So
wait, let me do it again here. Hold on. Can you give us a better idea? Can you give us a better idea of sort of what something like this might cost?
Yeah. So we normally kind of give a range 70 to 140, kind of that low end to high end. Obviously, there's a lot of variables that come with that. You know, you start adding porches into it and all the other upgrades that you can look at. But you know, that's a good starting point just to use.
That's for your 3 Series?
Yeah, for a 3 Series looking all the way up into the 7s.
It'll go up as the series grows.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
So, so with this, I mean, they've added some shiplap just as a bit of a upgrade wall to have some texture into the unit.
This will eventually be the kitchen, sink.
Yep. And they come fully furnished. So when you're doing this,
too. I was
correct. Yeah. So you'll
that.
see that as we get further into it. You know, this will come with GE appliances. They'll pick their furniture colors.
Wow.
TVs, fireplaces. Right. It's a very turnkey product, which is another thing that the customer likes. It's not something they get, and now I got to go out and find all the things. You get it. You're going through a dealer. We work through a dealer network because they're going to set the unit, they're going to block it, they're going to level it. But then once they do all that, the customer shows up and you're ready to live.
Well, I don't feel overly claustrophobic or anything. It's rather high ceilings.
Yeah. So you're dealing with roughly a 10-foot sidewall, and obviously with the peak, you're getting into that 11, 12 by the time it's all said and done.
What else? So we got the bathroom here. It looks like should be a shower curtain, right?
Sure. It might be a door.
Or
you
a
know,
door.
we got those options.
But yeah, fully functional. And then bedroom, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And again, this is one of our 2-bedroom options. So this would be the master side of it, and then on the other end would be a 2nd bedroom, and that one I believe has another half bath to it. So this one they chose
fascinating to get a 2-bedroom, 1-bath unit that's just right here on wheels.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the other bedrooms
Sure.
here. Just curiosity. Is this sort of a closet? Oh no, that's the electrical box.
So they did a bunk room down here, and then
A bunk room. Wow, talk about maximizing your space.
and then they'll have a half bath in here. Yellow, what it is? Gentlemen's.
What do we got?
So, who's this one headed to? So this is a Canadian. Now this Canadian, because some of those get so long that it's harder for them to fit on some lots. So this is a Canadian that they actually turned around and shrunk up a little bit. But because they shrunk it up, they widened it. So they're still staying in that 538.
They shrank it lengthwise, but made it a little
But
bit
gave
wider.
themselves some width. So
Talk about customization. Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of this never-ending game of what we can do to stretch and pull. So again, you'll feel like this has a little bit more room, but you're still getting all your spaces. So again, you're dealing with a Canadian here, but a similar scenario that you got another kind of 2-bedroom unit. Front kitchens are our most popular. We'll find one of those online to walk through, but
Here, why don't I get out of the way, take Zach around and give him a tour.
sure. So, got a kitchen unit here. In the Canadians, a lot of times they'll do an upright furnace just because they're dealing with some colder temperatures. That brings them up temps a little quicker. They're in a bedroom here with some taller upright cabinetry. Bigger closet areas. And then the bathroom here, got their stand-up shower. And as we spin around here, another half bath, and then they added in this drawer space. Some larger windows in the living room area, dining room area.
Of course, there's customization that you can do that'll elevate the price, but you know, at most, your largest unit, your 7 Series, is still at a very reasonable range.
Yeah, I mean, what you're considering apartment living to be out in the, I mean, even in the Midwest, you're seeing $2,000 a month for any kind of apartment that isn't out much bigger than, you know, 400, 500, 600 square feet.
So many Americans are feeling that pain, and they're going through the exact same thing that you're talking about.
And it's not yours.
Yeah, it's not even yours.
Right.
I also spoke to Joel Letterman, another owner here at Elevation, about the unparalleled growth of this industry, how park homes are exploding all across the country, and why people are getting creative with their space. Tell me a little bit about this business in general. It sounds as if it's booming for you guys.
It is booming. Brent and I started this because we saw an opportunity, and we saw the demand for park models was only growing over the years. So it is a kind of an interesting segment of the RV industry, but we see the growth potential, especially with what's going on in affordable housing right now.
Tell me about that growth potential, the reason why you decided to go out on your own, maybe take a bit of a business risk, but seeing an opportunity and seizing it.
It was certainly a risk. We probably should have thought a little more about it, you know, but it was exciting at the time. We knew that the demand was there, and I was working for another manufacturer. We both were, and we saw that we were getting backed up, you know, and so there wasn't enough product out there on the market, and we felt like it could justify another manufacturer. So we took the leap, and it's been a lot of fun.
Explain the demand. Who's driving this demand and why?
That's a good question. Park models in the old days were just, you know, an old couple that has seen the camp scene, you know, they bounced around, they've done the traveling, they were ready to settle down in one spot. What we're finding now is that people are using these more as an ADU or affordable housing in an area that will allow for that from a zoning standpoint. So this has kind of, you know, become an open book for people. We're getting young families, we're getting young individuals, young professionals, kind of all over the map that are using these differently.
We have seen also those numbers backing that up, something like over the past 10 years, it's been like a 60% jump. Is that sort of the same data that you were looking at and realizing that this could be a great opportunity?
I would agree with that, especially metro areas. You're seeing, you know, Portland, Seattle, some of these bigger cities having to make some of those adjustments with their zoning rules. ADUs are becoming really large, and so they're realizing they have a problem. And you can't just go anywhere and find a, you know, $100,000, $200,000 house anymore for a young family starting out or somebody coming out of college. So we feel like this is really a niche market and something that's going to help subsidize that.
Yeah, let's talk about those numbers because you're offering an affordable option, and right now there are so many Americans out there that are struggling to find a home or find one that's in their price range, and so this sort of answers that question for them.
It really does. I mean, when you talk about interest rates and where they're at these days, not only that, but also just the housing market and the prices that we're experiencing, who's going to come out of school or start their life and be able to afford that? Rent is high, so why not put some cash in your pocket and pay equity down on something like this, you know, where you can kind of get a better start?
Let me ask you this. I mean, you mentioned sort of the idea of what it used to be or the stereotypes. Do you feel as if there's still a stigma with owning something like this?
Yeah, I do. There is a stigma. I mean, this, at the end of the day, it still is a tiny home or an RV. But Brent and I have really tried to focus on keeping up with current building trends and staying with what's popular in housing. Because at the end of the day, this is built like a stick frame house. It is on a frame with wheels, but we are able to kind of capitalize on that, you know, residential construction aspect and keep up. So that's kind of fun for us to be, you know, modern.
Is it hard to convince young people that this might be a good option for them?
I really don't think so. What we're seeing anymore with young people is that they want something different for their life. They're not concerned with building this huge house and amassing all these things. They want to live simply, and it's kind of like less is more to them. They want the flexibility to travel and to come home to a small place like what we're offering. So I think the next 5 and 10 years, we're really projecting, great numbers. And I think the idea of tiny living and small community like this is appealing.
Is there any trends that you see geographically across America? Are they more centrally located in some areas more popular than others, or is it growing all across our country?
I would say it is growing across the country. Traditionally, our business, the lake states, are where a lot of campgrounds are, and so that's been kind of the focus. But we're seeing Florida, Arizona, Colorado, even out west to Oregon and Washington, people are kind of coming around to this idea. And especially in those areas where affordable housing is at a premium, even up into Canada. Ontario, you can't go anywhere for less than $750,000, and at that you're getting a little dumpy one-bedroom house. Here, for much less cost, you've got this brand new, beautiful, bright, well-lit facility, place to live.
I was also talking to Brent about the fact that it's not as permanent as a home. It's not apples to apples. It won't ever be, and I'm sure you're not even thinking, I'm sure maybe it's a bit of your competitor, but it'll never be like a home where you have to get what you get and you don't throw a fit. It's stuck in one spot. At least you have options here to maybe one day pick it up if another lot opens up, right?
That's right. To me, that's actually a benefit. So, you're not tied down. And we talk about those young people, they like that idea as well. Hey, if I get relocated for my job, or I have a change of heart and want to go west or whatever, now I can actually hook this up to a semi and away we go. So it's very mobile, but it still feels like a house.
We were joking about it earlier. These are the wide loads that you see on the highways, isn't it?
They are. We get a lot of comments, hey, I can hook my pickup up and go down the road here. That's not going to happen. Number one, they're a little bit heavier, but also that wide load permit you need to take these.
Yeah, so it takes some effort. It's not as easy as like an RV or a traditional RV where it's always on wheels or just driving, right?
Correct. Yeah, and I think, again, that goes back to one of the benefits of park models is that this is an 11 or 12 foot wide fixed structure, so you don't have any slide outs that are going to leak. You don't have a rubber roof. I mean, this is residential construction, and it's we call semi-permanent.
Is there a correlation between this boom in this industry as a whole and the growth of your company? The fact of the matter is that you guys have probably quadrupled your employee size, right, over the past since you opened?
That's correct.
Is there a correlation between the way that this industry has boomed with the way that your company has also grown in size?
I would say that that's a possibility. However, there are certain companies that have not experienced this growth over the last 3 years. I think it's a credit to our employees and the staff we've built. We've got a lot of experience out here. And so while some others are taking a step back, we're eating up market share and moving forward. And we're really proud of what we've done in 3 short years.
Yeah. Joel, take me over here. Show me this map here. This is cool. So this is what, all these little pinpoints?
So this is the dealer map here. So everywhere you see a yellow dot, here's us in the blue there in Indiana, but this is our dealer network. So in fact, there's quite a few more up here in Canada that didn't make the map, but a lot of room to expand. And so that's what's exciting to Brent and I as well. There's markets that are untapped still for us, but honestly, the growth we've experienced has been a little bit limiting because we can't just go out there and cover the whole country like we want to, but slowly we're getting there.
I mean, this is impressive to me. You may see it as limited, but I'm seeing a ton of dealers down here in Florida. Obviously, you got the Midwest taken care of, but you wouldn't be doing sales out here. You wouldn't have a location out here if you weren't even considering what's the potential that's out there on the West Coast.
That goes back to what we talked about, affordable housing out west. It's crazy what they're spending on these things, and so obviously our freight's a little more to get it out there, but $200,000 for a park model is still a deal to a lot of people.
Yeah, no kidding. I lived in Los Angeles, and you don't find anything
so
under $1 million.
You get it. I think, like I talked about, our market is kind of trending younger these days, and so we've really tried to get a little more modern. You're seeing us do single slope units now, more non-lofts than traditionally we have done. So typically it's a family that's looking for extra sleeping space for the kids, but I think that's what excites us, is kind of pushing the boundaries. Park models were just stuck for so long, and so Elevation has been one of the leaders in innovation and trying to, and in fact, push these other companies to keep up, quite honestly.
And Brent was saying it's pretty much somewhere between around 70 is your baseline to about 140, I believe, from 3 series to 7 series.
That's correct. On a dealer's lot, you could be between 70 and 150 approximately.
And when you consider the median home price in America being more than $400,000, this is an option that is a lot better for a lot of Americans.
It's an opportunity for people, and the other thing I would say is that in our industry, typically RVs, tend to depreciate fairly quickly. You won't find that with park models. So we've often seen these used sell for more than they did brand new. So it does act a little more like a residential home.
Tell me your connection with elevation, how that started and why you decided you wanted to maybe pursue this for you and your family.
My dad actually passed a year ago, and my mom is legally blind, and she had a 2-story house. It wasn't safe for her to be there. And of course, you know, we didn't want her quite in my house, but I wanted her close. And we kind of started researching. My husband actually works here, so that was a good thing as well. So we started researching and how we can make this work, and it worked. She's on our property.
Yeah, first and foremost, sorry about the loss of your father. That's a difficult time for families to go through, and all of a sudden, this is a reality for Americans just like you. They all of a sudden are in this transition period, searching for housing. I remember my grandma lived with us for a spell before we found a space for our own. So I think it's safe to say you are dealing with, or you've dealt with, something that so many people also go through.
Yes, absolutely. And it was rough. We had to sell the house. We came here. They were actually great to us. I think we came 5 different times for her to actually look and walk through the units. Obviously, you've seen all of them are different. She got the floor plan she wanted, and Joel made it very easy, step-by-step process. You know, what colors do you want? What backsplash do you want? And 4 months later, we had it.
Was it a hard sell to, like, for her, for your mother, to imagine her in there? She's used to her 2-story home. All of a sudden, she's downsizing in a way?
Yes, absolutely. That was a big struggle for her. Her main thing was, you know, I want as many cabinets as I can, because she wanted storage. She obviously has our house as well, so a lot of her storage is in our basement. But it's great because she can go back and forth all the time.
Tell me a little bit about that battle, right? Because the first, or I guess logical step that many Americans would say is, all right, Mom, just come live with us. But that's not always feasible or practical.
Absolutely. Our house isn't huge. We kind of be right on top of each other, which that was an option. She thought, you know, maybe I'll go get a condo, something like that. But we wanted her close. I have to take her everywhere. Obviously, she can't drive. And yeah, it was a big decision.
Tell me about the setup. I've seen some interior shots of her unit, but where is it located? How close to you? You know, that kind of thing.
So our house is kind of like an L now. We have a ranch and it's straight, and then her house is like this. So our backyards are adjoined. We have dogs, she has a dog. My dogs like to actually go to her step and wait and ask to go in all the time. So it's great.
So this is a perfect example of people getting creative. You don't necessarily place these in a park with other similar units. Instead, you're choosing to put it right there on your property next to your home.
Sometimes you have to think outside the box a little bit. We actually have tanks under her unit instead of going into our septic. We didn't want to get into all of that. And so somebody has to come out and pump them about every 6 weeks.
Overall, are you happy with the choice you made?
Absolutely. We were a little worried over the winter how it'd go, just because it gets freezing around here. But, you know, a little thinking outside the box, it worked great. Nothing ever froze.
How about your mom? How's she doing?
She's doing great. She loves it. She loves being close. And then, you know, we're right there if she needs something. I think that it's a great idea. I think the mother-in-law suite, it's fun. You know, she's there, she has her own space, she has her own independence, but yet we're right there if she needs us.
And we love our mothers, but sometimes we need a little distance.
Absolutely.
When you look at the hard and fast numbers, manufactured homes really are exploding all across America. Within the last decade, they've gone up by about 60%, and the price really has a lot to do with it. You could get one of these for about $120,000. Compare that to the single family unit that's on the market right now in America, that's about $400,000. So it might just be something worth considering when you're looking for your next dream home. For NewsNation, I'm Alex Caprariello.